Okay, it was a good win for our players, much needed win. I think the coaches did a nice job during the bye week, utilizing the bye week best of their abilities, attacking the things that we didn't do well in the first half of the season, maintaining a positive attitude with the players, and really reiterating to them that this is a new start to the season. And I think the players took that to heart. They worked extremely hard during the bye week, and it showed up during the game. Going into this game offensively, we talked about getting more chunk plays. What we consider chunk plays are runs over 10 yards, passes over 20 yards. We had 4 runs over 10 yards. We had 5 passes over 20 yards, which is certainly more than we had at any point during the season. We pushed the ball down the field more, and I thought Mac was extremely accurate in this game. The main thing we talked about, which was really our biggest issue the first half of the season, was protecting the football, no turnovers. Again, in 39 pass attempts, Mac had no interceptions, and then the running backs were very good, running hard, running physical, not turning the ball over. We had no turnovers in the game offensively. We talked about stealing 2 possessions with ball control, which is we feel is our best formula to win. We made a goal of 35 minutes being that, and we accomplished that goal. We held the ball for 36 minutes, 55 seconds, and had a 16-play drive in the fourth quarter that ate up a lot of clock that resulted in the game-winning field goal by Maddox. We talked about staying ahead of the chains, putting ourselves in manageable third downs. For the most part, I think we did that. We cut our tackles for losses in half from our average in the first half of the season. That's one of the things we really had to attack. One thing we didn't hold true to, we talked about no penalties. We did have 2. We had a false start by Plinky, and we had a holding penalty on a toss play by Cole Freitag. We talked about giving up no sacks. We did give up 1, but I really, again, applaud the offensive line. They've done a great job. They're number 1 in Conference USA in sacks allowed, and certainly we've been throwing it more than we have in the past, so they're doing a nice job in protection. We talked about no drops. This was probably the main thing that stood out to me in this game as a negative. Mac had an outstanding game. He was 20 of 39 for 271 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he had 5 drops that weren't just drops. These were drops for big yardage. One was an 80-yard touchdown, Batson in the clear. Autry Golden in the 2-minute drill would have been a 65-yard touchdown. Batson again on a crossing route. Basically how he scored on his first route. Would have had the same thing. So we left a lot of yards on the field and a lot of points on the field with drop balls in this game. Batson had 2, as I mentioned. Autry had a big one. Plinky had 2. We talked about running the ball efficiently, more so efficiently on first down. I felt the backs ran extremely hard and physical. We didn't hit our goal average of 4.5. We were right around 4.0, taking out the kneels, but the backs were physical. And it set up more manageable third downs for us, and more importantly, it set up play-action shots down the field, which we were successful at. We talked about having smart physical offensive line and tight end play with less negatives. I thought they accomplished that. I thought the offensive line played extremely well. In particular, Will Hernandez probably had his best game of the year, and Darren Gatewood really played outstanding at the right guard position. It was his first start. He went against their best defensive player who led their team in sacks and tackles for losses, and he pitched a shutout on him. Unfortunately for Darren, he suffered the same injury as Aaron Jones and Chris Misafala. He had a dislocated ankle that is going to require surgery, and Darren will be out for the year. Which makes 11 players out for the year for us, which is a little disheartening because not only is he was our starting guard, he's also our backup center, so it hurts you at 2 positions. But Darren did an outstanding job in this game. We talked about the third down efficiency, putting ourselves in manageable third downs. We were 9 of 18 for 50%. That's our goal. Anytime you're at 50% on third downs, you're being successful. We did score 1 out of 2 red zone touchdowns, so we did show some improvement in that area. It's got to be 2 out of 2. We had 410 total yards. And then Batson also had a good game for us, 143 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, which are both personal highs for him. But captain of the week on offense is Mac Leftwich. I thought he had an outstanding game. He's going to be over a 60% passer if you throw in the drop, add in the drops. Very accurate on his balls. He had a couple balls that got away from him, but he took some shots, And if people don't know that Mac Leftwich is tough, they sure know it now, because he took some shots in that game and he doesn't flinch. And I was concerned, obviously, as a head coach, a guy coming off of as vicious of a shot as he took against New Mexico State. What was it going to be his mind frame in not playing basically in a month and going through concussion protocol? And he came out and just showed us what the true competitor he is that we already knew. And we'll move forward with Mac and excited about that. Defensively, we talked about stealing 2 possessions on defense in the form of turnovers. Not only did we get 2 turnovers, they came at a very good time down in the red zone, which has really been our struggle on defense this year, is team scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Florida Atlantic was 1 for 5 at 20%, which is outstanding, and we got a big-time fumble recovery after a huge hit by Alvin Jones, by Deshaun Smith, and then we got a big-time interception, his first of his career, by Nick Needham. So 2 huge plays down in the red zone that stopped drives for them that gave us an opportunity on offense. We talked about better communication, no secrets, and I really felt the communication and assignment errors on the back end were cut tenfold. And I really think a big reason for that is Kelvin Fisher being on the back end. He's a great communicator. I think he kind of has a calming presence for some of those young guys that are playing back there, and it showed up because a guy like Michael Lewis had his most productive day as a safety. Deshaun had a very productive day as a safety, and I think a lot of that has to do with the communication of having Kelvin back in the fold healthy, and that was good for us to see. We talked about the willingness to run and hit. I told the defense before the game, if I'm looking for one thing, I just want to see guys flying around with the football, and I really felt, especially in the second half of the game, that our defense flew around with a purpose. We talked about eliminating chunks. I still felt there were too many. Most of those came in the first half. Both chunk runs came in the first half, and most of the chunk passes came in the first half. I thought the communication tightened down in the second half, and we eliminated that better, but they had 6 total chunk plays against us, which again is probably cutting it in half from where we were at, but we still got to eliminate those, especially going against a team like we're going to face this week. Production-wise, defense came up with 5 tackles for losses, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 huge red zone stops, as I mentioned, 1 for 5 in red zone touchdowns, and we're good on third downs, 4 for 10. So 2 areas that we struggled in both offensively and defensively, red zone and third downs, were drastically improved. Special teams, I thought the punt team was good in this game. L.A. Dow, he had a Johnny-on-the-spot play where the ball hit the back of their cover guy's leg, and he fell on it, but that's not by accident. L.A. Dow is always in the right spot on special teams. I made note to the team that top gun for us is the top special teams point getter throughout all 4 special teams. He's been 5 of 7 this year, and in the last 2 years, he's won it 14 times. So this guy is a special teams ace, and he is also captain of the week along with Mac Leftwich. Add in the fact that he also had 75 yards rushing as a running back after moving over from safety. So him and Jeremiah LaFossa did a nice job running the ball, but he also did a great job on special teams. Luna has been punting well for us all year. He had a 46-yard average. He had a long of 60, and he had 1 inside the 20. We should have had 2 inside the 20. L.A. Dow made a great play and batted it back. We just couldn't cash in on it with Tron. Our punting average was only 42 because we also did a pooch punt with Mac Leftwich that was also inside the 9-yard line, a good punt by him. But Luna's been punting outstanding. Punt return, probably one of the biggest swing plays that I've ever seen. They punted from their 9-yard line. We made a misjudge by Jaquan White, fielding it at about the 30. The ball bounced. He tried to field it inside the 10, and he fumbled it. They recovered at the 3 and scored on the next play. You talk about a 10-point swing. You talk about a change in momentum, and you talk about flipping the field. That was a big of a change in one play. So unfortunately for Jaquan, we had to make a switch there, a switch that will remain. We moved Daniel Sear into punt returning, which probably doesn't give us as much ability as far as returning long punts, but it gives us Sear has done a better job fielding the ball, which is the most important thing on punt return. So the one thing I did like that Jaquan did after making a big mistake, I've seen many guys just go in the tank and let that affect them the rest of the game. Jaquan didn't do that. On the very next series, we got the ball offensively. He scored a touchdown and really had an outstanding individual effort in doing so, breaking a tackle and stiff-arming a defender into the end zone. So much like Batson coming back after his first drop, Jaquan came back after his big mistake on punt return, but there will be a change there. Kickoff cover, not our best night. I thought Maddox was good kicking it. We had 4 out of 6 touchbacks, but out of the 2 returns, we did give up a 44-yard return where, when you watch the film, we had him tackled at the 20. But we got to come home and we got to hit home on those tackles. Kickoff coverage unit's been outstanding all year, but this was probably our worst night of the year against a good return unit. We're going to face another one this week. Kickoff return, we did have, our goal is 1 return of 30 yards or more. We did have that. We had pretty much what I feel is kind of a ticky-tack call on Nick Usher on that return and a little block in the back, but it was called. But Autry seemed to have a little bit more juice, and again, he was running fast offensively too. He was wide open on the one ball that was perfectly laid, so he just had a drop. So as Autry gets healthier, we want to get him back in the mix on those type things. Maddox was 2 for 3. He did miss a 45-yarder early in the game, but again, I loved how he bounced back and he made the game winner, only 2 yards shy of that one. So he was 2 for 3, made all of his PAT field goals, and then our goal on PAT field goal block is to either block a kick or force an errant kick, which we had good pressure on their last kick, and their field goal kicker came up wide to the left, which really at that time was a huge play for us because they were trying to get the quick points. Probably we're going to go for an onside and try to get the ball back down by 10. So that was a huge lift for us. We could have had 3 turnovers. Again, Nick Usher made probably one of the most outstanding plays I've seen by a drop end. He covered the wheel, really did not have hands on the guy, made an outstanding leap and made the interception, but they called him for holding. Again, once it's called, there's nothing you can do about it. But again, a great individual effort by him, and he's been playing solid for us all year. As a team, the main thing we talked about was playing as a team. The thing that we harp to our players all week long is the individual strength as a team and the team strength as the individual. I really felt our team played as a team, and very proud of them. And people that haven't played football don't know what it's like to go out there and battle without half your team missing, and given the effort that they put in and battle when nobody thinks you got a chance. So my hat's off to them. They responded like men, and they got a game that they deserved, and I was extremely happy for them. Moving forward, Southern Miss, in my opinion, very well could be the best team in Conference USA. They're playing like it in all 3 phases. Offensively, they're averaging 35.9 points a game. They're running the ball extremely well, 5 yards a carry, 178 yards a game. Passing the ball extremely well. The quarterback's off to a monster year, 327 yards passing. They're averaging 505 yards a game, total offense, which is second in Conference USA, behind Western Kentucky, which we all know how explosive their offense is. Third downs, they've been excellent, 43%. Red zone touchdowns, they've been middle of the pack. That's probably their lowest statistical category, 8th in Conference USA. But every other category statistically, offensively, they're in the top 3. They've only given up 13 sacks in 318 pass attempts, so they're protecting the quarterback much better than they were last year at this time. They got a veteran group offensively. They got 5 senior starters. They got 3 senior offensive linemen. That's usually a formula for success. As I mentioned, the quarterback's playing great. 2,600 passing yards, 21 TDs, only 7 interceptions, and he's passing at a percentage rate of 63%. 326 yards passing a game. 2 excellent running backs. Number 30, Richard. He's a transfer, a 1-year transfer from Michigan. He actually played on my son's team, and my son felt he was the best back that they had there at Michigan. That says a lot because they got some very talented backs there at Michigan. And he's averaging 5.7 a carry, 7 touchdowns, 688 yards rushing. He's also a good receiver, 19 receptions, 189 yards. And then Edo Smith, number 25, he's got 6.9 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, and he's got 29 receptions, 11.1 per reception. So both their backs are good running backs. They're also good receivers out of the backfield. I feel this will probably be the best core of receivers that we'll face, and they're all explosive. It starts with their slot receiver, little guy, number 83, 5'10", 180, but he is a football player. This guy's got 49 receptions for 500 yards. He's got 6 touchdowns with a long of 50, 10.2 average. Martin, he leads their team in receptions. Number 88, their ex-receiver, is 36 receptions, 653 yards, 18.1 yard average. So he's explosive, long of 69, 6 touchdowns. And then Thompson, the other receiver, has 448 yards, 15.4 per reception, 3 touchdowns, long of 50. So you're seeing long of 69, long of 50, long of 59. These guys are explosive players that can make big plays. Defensively, this is where they've really improved. Last year, they were middle to lower the end of the pack as far as defense in Conference USA. Again, statistically, they're 1 or 2 in most every category. Defensively, 23.9 points a game is third. They're giving up 4.5 per rush. 194 passing yards is second in Conference USA. Total yards, they're second in Conference USA at 369. They're first on third downs. They've been pressuring more this year, blitzing more, playing more man coverage, and first downs, they're holding opponents to 31%. That's outstanding. They're also good in the red zone. They're fourth in Conference USA in red zone touchdowns. They have 21 sacks on the year. They're number 1 in Conference USA at pressuring the quarterback with man coverage. Okay, so these guys have drastically improved on defense. Up front, it starts with number 94. Bradley, defensive end, he's third in the team in tackles. This guy's got 10.5 tackles for losses, which is second behind only Alvin Jones, and he's got 5.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. He is disruptive. Middle linebacker, short, kind of a stocky guy, second on the team in tackles and 50, number 18, 7.5 tackles for losses, 2.5 sacks, forced fumble. This guy's been making plays for him. And they got a very good secondary. They got a big safety, number 12, he's their leading tackler, their safety, 56, 5.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery, interception. The guy's been making plays. He's up near the box, and he's a great box player. They got great cornerback play this year. Number 11, Reed, 3 interceptions, 10 pass breakups. That's a season for most people. And then the other cornerback, number 3, Armstrong, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups. So they got corners that are playing man coverage, making plays and interceptions. They got linebackers that are making tackles, and they got disruptive guys up front making sacks. That's why they're leading Conference USA in sacks, and they're second in Conference USA in defense. Solid special teams. Their punter, 41.9 average, 8 inside the 20. They have had 1 blocked. Their punt return, 6.6 yard average. It's the running back, number 30. He's actually got a 7.5 average, so they have had other punt returners in there. He's got a long of 22. Kickoff cover, they give up a 100-yarder earlier in the season, so their average is a little bit higher, but take out that 100-yarder, they're sitting at 16 yards per return. So they've drastically improved since that early return against them. Kickoff return, again, they're third in Conference USA, 24.9 yards per return. Number 25 is their number 1 returner. And they've been consistent in the kicking game, 10 of 15 field goals and 35 of 37 PAT. So what we're going to face is an explosive, high-scoring offense, an attacking defense that pressures the quarterback, and very sound special teams. Again, they're 5-3, and if you look at their 3 losses, it's to Mississippi State, who they played extremely well, and Nebraska, who they played extremely well, in Marshall. Okay, so this is a very good football team. They start fast, 62 and 67 points in the first and second quarter, and they come out at halftime fast, 90 points in the third quarter. We may have to utilize our silent count. They've been getting great crowds there. They're averaging close to 30,000 fans. They've been very vocal. You can see it on film, causing some disruption for the offenses. But the one things, that we got to capitalize on, they have given up turnovers this year. They're -4 category. We're sitting at -6. So we got to take advantage of that if we can. And then they have been a highly penalized team. We got to be a disciplined team going into this game, especially playing on the road. So we know we have a difficult chore ahead of us, but judging off the energy of the kids yesterday, they're energized. They're excited about their win. We're just going to take it one game at a time, heading into this last half portion of the season and try to finish this season feeling good about our team, feeling good about the seniors, and trying to accomplish as much as we can. Any questions? Absolutely. And having been a line coach myself, there's been situations where a guy's probably not playing as up to par as you want him to, and you sit them down for a game, and they realize what they're missing. And sometimes when they come back from that situation, they play even better than they ever have. So Derek Elmendorf's played a lot of football for us, and Derek Elmendorf's a very good football player. And so he's going to get an opportunity in this game, and I expect him to play extremely well. Our backup center is Eric Ramirez, who actually last year finished in the same role. We played our last 3 games last year with Eric Ramirez as our backup center.
Southern Miss was so bad a couple of years ago. What have they done to turn it around? They've been patient. They've done a nice job. They've always had great athletes, but they've stuck with the same scheme. Coach Monica's done a great job sticking with the same scheme, and they've grown into it. And you could even see it last year. I felt last year when we played them, I felt they were maybe the most talented team that we played, and you could see they were just a step or two away. They've been healthy this year. They got kind of a senior-laden group, and that have been playing together for a few years. Now they're playing with confidence. So they're playing good football right now.
Defensively, it seemed like there was that as much blitzes as we're used to in that second half. Is that going to be a key to get guys like Roy, guys like Shy going against, especially if you're going to need guys back there to cover?
Well, we got to mix it up. Our team will man pressure, but we got to do a good job when we do play zone coverage of showing man, or if we are going to play man coverage of showing zone. We just can't sit and line up in it so they can tee off and dial up plays. But ultimately against a team like Southern Miss, much like last year, we got to hit home on our pressure. So if we do pressure, or if we're not pressuring, it puts pressure on the front to make sure that they hit home with just a 4-man rush. And we did get pressure on them last year, and it resulted in some turnovers and big plays for us. And we're going to have to do the same to have a chance to beat these guys this year.
When you were recruiting Mac, what sold you on him? I mean, obviously, I know you played, you were close to the family and stuff, but what sold you?
Yeah, that had nothing to do with it. It had to do with he was a winner. In 2 years he lost 1 game. He won the Pennsylvania State Championship. He was the most productive quarterback in Western Pennsylvania, which is some of the best high school football in the country. I had a chance to see his toughness. Some of the hits that you saw that he just bounces up front, I've seen it 100 times. I'll give you a little insight on that. My offensive lineman from the Steelers used to go to North Allegheny high school football games to watch him play. That's how productive of a high school player he was. They'd say, are you guys playing at home this week? And 2 or 3 of them would show up at the game, and they loved watching him play. He's just got a competitive nature about him. Again, at the early part of the season, probably handcuffs are on him a little bit because we were playing ball control offense and utilizing Aaron Jones. Well, we don't have Aaron Jones now, so we have to take the handcuffs off a little bit, and Matt can throw. You saw that the other night. He was throwing dimes, and he's got a good command of the offense. He understands the offense better than anybody, and he's got a little extra knack about him. He'll jump a lineman's tail if things ain't going good. If a guy ain't lined up right, or if the tempo ain't going right, he's got that demeanor, and it's called leadership. And that's what you're searching for at the quarterback position. You can throw out all the height, weight, stats, strong arm, all that. That stuff doesn't mean anything if you don't have a quarterback demeanor, and he has that. I think it's got to be a confidence booster for him because that guy is being touted as a guy that has an ability to play at the next level. But I really like Tyler Batson. By the time Tyler Batson leaves here, this guy's probably going to be a 2-time team captain. He's got great leadership. Even though he's younger than some of those guys in that receiver group, he's kind of the leader of the group. He's out there working every day. He's a little beat up himself, but he never complains. He never takes a day off. He blocks. And if he misses a block, he's very conscious about correcting it. I know he was sick that he had that drop, and he's going to be the guy that stays after and gets extra balls after practice. He just has a great work ethic, and you talk about a humble kid.
he doesn't say too much. You know, he's fun to coach, and he's just going to get better and better. And again, we've played 3 different quarterbacks. Hopefully with the stability of one quarterback, they can get on that connection, kind of like they did the other night, and develop a bond. And, you know, and you got those guys for the next 3 years together. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Is you still going to do any Wildcat, or is that kind of,
You know, no, it's not on the shelf. We'll carry it into every game, and it really predicates on what they're giving us. And really, we didn't feel the need to go to it the other night. But I'm not saying that we won't see it this weekend. We could see it for the remainder of the season. We're very confident in Kavika running that package. But just what we were doing was working, and at that point, there was not a need to switch into that.
Would you consider at the end of the first quarter you're facing a 3rd and 18 with 18 seconds to go, calling a timeout there, trying to get 10 yards, calling a timeout, and having them win on that field goal drive?
Looking back on it, I could say that. I could probably do that on every single call and play for an entire game. It's always fun to look back on Monday and critique myself, but you know, there's always choices during the game. My mentality is if you're getting the ball to start the second half, you really don't want to be overly aggressive. Now, on offense, if we ever cross the 30-yard line, we'll get into a 2-minute mode. But if we're backed up, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a pick six or a fumble or, you know, people trying to force something to happen. So I wasn't going to, at that time, just try to burn timeouts and throw a Hail Mary or anything like that. I was content. We were down by 3, going into halftime, making adjustments, coming back and knowing we were going to have the ball to start the second half. Now, your mentality does change a little bit if you've already had the ball in the first half and they're going to have the ball in the second half, because then you got to be even a little bit more aggressive to try to steal some points. But
I mean, into the first quarter, you kicked a field goal in the second play of the second quarter. It's really stiff.
right.
Did you think about calling the timeout so that you would be kicking with the wind?
We did call a timeout. We called a timeout and threw a shot, if you can recall.
The sequence leading right up to Madison's missed field goal.
Correct. The last play of the first quarter, we threw a shot, and then we had an untimed down and threw another shot down the field to take advantage of the win.
Oh, and then were you kind of happy to see their field goal team come on first down for the night?
You know, that's probably another one on Monday you can second guess, but if you think about it from their mentality, they had to score 10 points. They were in field goal range. Their kicker was very accurate. So they probably felt like they could have got the automatic points. They still had a timeout left. They probably felt like they could have onside kick and went for the touchdown. You know, that's their choice. You know, probably would have done it differently, but each coach has a different mentality about different situations. But either way, they had to get 10 points, whether they kicked the field goal later, kicked it now. Maybe they felt like they had a bird in hand and had a timeout still to go for the touchdown. But they had first down on the 20 with some time. You probably think they would flip it, but I'm never going to second guess another coach. That's for sure.
And how nice was it to see the next play you get that first down?
That was huge, you know, because then you can just, you know, kneel out the clock, and that's a mentality as well. 4 down offense at the end of the game. We call 4-minute. We practice that quite frequently, especially during training camp, to try to hit those situations. We got to know how many timeouts the defense has, how much time can they burn off the clock. You have your 4-minute chart, knowing how long you can kneel down plays and bleed out the clock, but it was essential that we had to get a first down in order to do that, and that just comes with the mentality because the box is going to be outnumbered. They know you're probably running the ball. It would, not be in your benefit to pass the ball because you're probably going to You're going to stop the clock if it's incomplete. You certainly can't risk a turnover. So there's a lot that plays in the 4-minute, but ultimately it's like goal line, short yards. It comes down to an attitude. And I'm sorry, I misinterpreted your other question you were asking me earlier. I thought you were talking about the end of the half.